What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Dollars Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, let's talk about the week that was at PGA National. What'd you think of the week?
Interesting, weird, everything in between except normal. Is that a best way to describe it?
Yeah, I think odd or weird is definitely a great way to describe it. Shout out to Austin Eckroat for the win. Uh,
Good looking gentleman. Woo-hoo.
yeah, a little weird because he won it on Monday at like 10 a.m. Central Time for us. So that was a bit strange. I'm sure all of the like seven people that could afford to watch it
There's
while they
no
were
one there.
well, no one's there, and then everybody that's watching it is like at home with a remote job, just watching it with a screen in the background. Yeah, normally with the volume off too, by the way. So it was kind of interesting to see that was the way it all ended up happening. There was a few good names at the top. There were also a decent chunk of names that just entirely missed the cut. Any highlights? Any lowlights? I know we have one shared lowlight for sure. Um, but anything that really stood out to you this week?
First of all, shout out EVR. I mean, that was a rough weather delay for that guy. He was on a tear. And
Yep.
I think that cutoff really screwed him over. Couple guys that obviously outshined. Like, it was nice to see Minwoo Lee come back and be in a leaderboard finally.
Yep.
Of course, we didn't bet on him. It was nice to see Cam Young finish in there. Jake Knapp. We didn't have that first win kind of hangover, so that was really nice to see. Saw guys like Shane Lowry finally get his swing through 4 rounds, which is good. The GOAT Keith Mitchell, stuff like that. And then some other guys. It was cool to see. I know a guy you'll touch on, like a Zach Johnson,
Yep.
come out and perform. It was really cool to see Rory McIlroy really come out from out of nowhere through it felt like and kind of catapult in. And then the low light for me was Bud Cauley going from basically solo first and finishing, I want to say 21st, but it's not necessarily a low light for him, just where he was going into it.
Yeah, he had a chance to win, and anytime anybody's got a chance to win and they finish outside top 20, it's a little tough on him. I feel bad for the guy generally. Low lights is Eric Cole and the fact that he shot like
Good Lord.
eight or nine over, that's for sure. That was one of my thoughts going into it last week, was that we just didn't have a ton of data with him at this course. I assumed it wouldn't be that drastic of a difference. I was not alone. I looked at his stats. He was started on my single entry lineups at about a 42% clip.
I was even higher than that.
Yours was even higher? Okay, well, so then mine was specifically a mine, but I thought it was very interesting to see that he was so heavily owned and just did not perform for anything. So he wasn't alone in that for me. There was a few other guys that also didn't play great and missed a cut.
Dietrich.
Yeah, Dietrich's one. Although, again, I kind of commented that I was not a fan of Dietrich last week.
Me too.
Well, Jack said he liked him. I said his approach game sucked.
Mine was price oriented, and that was, good Lord. Thornbjorn Olesen, another guy that just really sucked it out. I think the highest OWGR that missed was probably Sungjae.
Yeah, Sungjae missing the cut was one that hurt a lot of people because I know he's played well there in the past. I loved it, and I appreciate him for it because I was betting against him this past week. But yeah, there was a good amount of big names that really kind of missed out, and I think it caused utter mayhem in the betting market, in the DFS world. I mean, I was seeing, guys with only 3 or 4 people making the cut winning decent money in FanDuel and DraftKings, which is terrifying to see because it just means that so many people got it wrong. Therefore, us included, because again, if everybody else is getting it wrong too, it means that somewhere along the way we also fell off. So, what'd you look like in terms of DraftKings? Unless there's somebody else specifically you want to discuss.
No, I mean, my DraftKings was all over the place.
Okay.
All over the place. I mean, Tom Kim, good Lord, Eric Cole, Keith Mitchell, Matthew Pavon, Justin Suh, and then Parker Cootie. So it was just like, I literally hit every stretch of the leaderboard. Thank God for 50-50s. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'll trade you. I didn't get single entries or 50-50s in any lineup. That might be the first time in close to like a calendar year I haven't won at least one of my 4 between single entries and 50-50s on FanDuel and DraftKings. I went a combined 3 for 7 if you include both of my lineups together on making the cut. My main miscuts were Eric Cole, Daniel Berger, Lee Hodges, and Matthew Neesmith. Most of those guys played really good one day and then just decided to shoot like +7 the other day, which sucks. And then my guys that played well were Shane Lowry, T4, Benny On, T21, and Matthew Pavon, T28. So now I know for Cognizant next year, I guess I just need to follow the metrics a little bit. I think I flew a little too close to the sun as far as the metrics go. I probably dug a bit too deep into, strokes gained approach and the overview on all that, as opposed to just, the eye test, which sometimes is just the best way to bet in the sports world. So now going into it next year, I know I need to change up my thought process here for PGA National for sure.
Yeah, my FanDuel was actually good. That one in both. The only miss was Eric Cole. Roars had a good Sunday. Kim 6 over, I think, on Sunday, which sucked. But Keith Mitchell, top of the leaderboard. Carson Young, I think was around 30th. And then Jorge Campillo, my bottom of the barrel there, making the cut, which was awesome. So I got 4 rounds out of him.
Huge for the programming right there, yeah. All right, let's just keep on cruising into another tough stretch here. How'd your bets do this past week?
I hate golf betting. My favorite thing in the world. It doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. Thorbjorn Olesen, I had 2 bets on him. Both lost because he missed the cut. Alex Noren, Matthew Pavon, both making the cut was tremendous. Sepp Straka really, really, wet the bed on that one. Eric Cole, which I thought top 40 was going to be the surefire lock at those odds. Nope. Shane Lowry, Keith Mitchell both outperformed that. Again, when I say a amount of bad stretch, I have to put it in perspective. We're 26.68 units up, and we went minus 1.43 in the week. So it's a horrible stretch. I don't know what the heck's going on. I'll say it again. It's the most unpredictable year in golf ever. But if you were to tell me again, starting what was the first week, like October 2nd, that I'd be almost 27 units up, I'd be like, hey, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird week as far as golf betting goes. Again, generally speaking, it's impossible to win off of sportsbooks. Jack and I are both basically up on sportsbooks each of the last 2 years. Him maybe a little more exponentially than me, but again, the fact that we can both be up on the sportsbooks is a positive light.
Yeah. You buy your house tailing my bets. You bought the dollhouse tailing Liam's bets over the last calendar year.
All right, fair play. No, as far as my bets go, this was a brutal week for me, all things considered. But even then, it's not if you looked at it from a photosphere, you'd be like, holy shit, Liam, what were you thinking? If you saw the outcome, you'd be like, okay, you can survive this. Like, that's okay. I went 2 for 6. Eric Cole, top 30 plus 100. That was a loss. Daniel Berger, 37th or better. That was a loss. Lee Hodges, top 40. That was a loss. Matt Fitzpatrick over Sung J M. That was minus 110. That was a nice win. I had Robert McIntyre over Martin Laird. Martin Laird just proceeded to, I think, finish tied for 6th place in the entire tournament. So it didn't really matter what Robert McIntyre did because Martin Laird decided to play his best golf in 36 months. And then I had Sam Ryder top 40 at plus 187. That was a much needed bandage to cover an otherwise awful wound. So again, 2 for 6, but I only lost 1.22 units on the week.
No, let's not skip by that. Say that one more time.
2 for 6, and I lost 1.22 units on the week.
Good Lord.
Yeah, again, no business ending up to where I did. I'm currently 5.37 units up on the year. So, hey, we'll take it. There's no pictures on the betting scorecards. All right, just like in golf, there's no pictures on the scorecards. Nobody's looking at this. That's true. Fair play. All right, we going winners or wild picks?
Good Lord, just miscut. Eric Cole, Christian Bezuidenhout. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, Jack had a tough one with two miscuts. For mine, okay. Daniel Berger 40-1, that was a miscut. Billy Horschel at 75-1 finished T9. Which if I can get a top 10 out of Horschel on my one and dones, I'm cool with that. I mean, that dude is not consistently getting, top 30s. So if I can get anywhere top 10 with him on a one and done on a course he likes, hopefully you guys took Billy Horschel of the four of those to be your winners picks last week. And then wild card picks, what are we looking at?
We're not.
We're not. Oh, Eric Cole and Rio didn't finish top 30. Got it. Okay.
No, I don't think they finished. I think they finished bottom 30. Goodness gracious.
I was going to be respectful, but yeah, they both, let's just say, didn't peak into the top 30s this week. That's for sure. It was really funny. I actually had a really good wild pick this week. I had Zach Johnson top 40 at plus 250. He finished T21, so that was a win. If I had Sam Ryder and Zach Johnson as my other bets, as my bets, and then I had 4 losses, I think I would have won money. So Jeez. Again, super fluky, weird week for me. I'm gonna look past it. Seems like Jack didn't really love this past week either. We are now back to normal golf with a normal name.
With a normal name. Yeah. Cognizant Classic. I don't even know what Cognizant is. I don't even know.
Everybody I was listening to as far as the broadcast kept calling it just PGA National. The PGA National.
They can't which is call hilarious. It a classic if it's a debut. I get it's the Honda Classic. The Cognizant Classic is not a classic.
Yeah, I again, it's awful. But again, I thought it was funny. People were not referring to it as the Cognizant Classic on the broadcast. I kept hearing it being referred to as PGA National. Hi, we're back at PGA National. And I'm like, okay, so even the announcers don't want to call it the Cognizant. That's hilarious.
Why would they?
Regardless, we are off of that awful tournament name. And we are going to move on to the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Jack is out here showing his left titty because he's got the Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer Bay Hill.
There you go.
I got the actual drink. For those of you who don't know, limited edition Arnold Palmer design. You got the lemonade, you got the iced tea. Life is good. I overpaid for this. Just kidding.
Well, let's just hope Jack's bets this week are just as cool as that shirt. If that happens, we should be in good shape. As far as some details of the course, is a par 72, totaling 7,450 yards. Last year's winner, I have as Kurt Kitayama. Is that right? Did I read that, or did I write that down correctly?
Oh yeah, remember that's when he had like the most dominant iron performance we've ever seen in our life, and it came down. Yeah.
You're right. Okay, that makes sense. And there was fluky weather last year, I want to say too, right? Where like half the field got knocked out because of just awful rain and wind conditions on either that
sure
Thursday
we're
or Friday.
A couple withdrawals here in the next day, probably 24 hours.
Yeah. No. All right. So as far as some of the details, there's going to be about 70-ish golfers in the field. The way this is going to break down, it's going to be very similar to how Genesis was. Again, this is a elevated event, so top 50 and ties is the cut line. Again, just like at Riviera. Before Thursday, please do check the weather at this event. Jack and I are going to list off names. If they are in an awful time where there's going to be like 40-mile-an-hour winds or torrential downpours, do not be afraid to be like, you know what, I like them. But now that I'm seeing what's going on with the weather this week, I actually want to change off of them because it will cause carnage. And in the last 2 years, it's basically determined who makes and who misses the cut. This week, they're already looking at 20 to 25 mile an hour wind gust, and that's just preliminary reports for Thursday. That's not taking into account the potential options for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, where it could even get worse. Some of the highlights: approach play is an absolute necessity here. 30% of all approach shots are going to be from 200 plus yards away. So that's something you'll kind of want to look for. This is also a very sticky course for course history. Generally, the guys that play well here do so consistently, and they do so for a reason. I'm sure Jack will get into some of the details on DraftKings when it comes to that. I know I have a few guys that are extremely sticky as far as as far as course history goes.
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, Tiger's pretty good example here, but he's not in the field. The last thing I'll mention is that being long off the tee is not a bad thing here because of the distance. It's not a full-on necessity, but it is beneficial. But again, that's more of a benefit with the approach play as opposed to maybe one or the other. All right, you want to just dig right into it?
Yeah, prior to going any further, I don't know what's going on, but Iowa just had the craziest thunder and lightning crack I think I've ever seen in my life. So if I disconnect, good luck, Liam. Finish the podcast for me. But DraftKings, there's 3 guys in 11 and 10K range.
Yep.
And it's such a weird grouping because it's an elevated field. So they should be more guys. But Scotty Scheffler, 11,300. Rory McIlroy at 10,600. And Patrick Cantlay at 10,000.
Yeah, it's an interesting lineup. I'm going to start off with Rory, actually.
Yeah.
So outside of Quail Hollow, this is the best statistical tournament of Rory's career. Now, again, there's been fluky tournaments where he's only played 4 rounds, and therefore, like, the stats are a little funky. But I'm talking any course he's basically played twice or more. Outside of Quail Hollow, this is his tournament. He's played 36 rounds here and averages 2.4 strokes gained total per round. That's averaged over those 36 rounds.
Yeah, just for the record, that stat is crazy because back in his worst finish in the last 8 appearances here, and he sucked that year, 27th. His worst.
Yep, I was just about to read off. In his last 9 starts here, he has 9 made cuts, 8 top 25s, 6 T10s, 1 runner-up, and a win. So basically, if you are a big course history guy, Rory's going to be your first option this week. That he is the 1A. There is nobody taking that from him. You could also argue that he potentially is coming in with better form because he played solid last week. He's still probably not peak Rory form, but there's no better spot for him to get it than the spot that he's quite literally one of the best in the world at. So I think Rory's the best option at 10-6. If you want to go with Scotty at 11-3, I understand. Again, long irons, he's going to be great on. Distance, he's going to be great on. Putter has been a little better. So I understand it. I think in my head, though, I see the $700 price difference, and I think I lean more towards Rory.
Yeah, I would make the argument that Rory and Scotty should flip in prices, and then it'd be a lot more fair. I can see the argument, you take a look at Scotty. Last 2 years have been 4th and 1st, and that's a tremendous stat. I'm not discounting that. But in terms of course history, it literally is Rory McIlroy, a step ladder, and then I think Matt Fitzpatrick, if I remember correctly, is second on the model in the last decade. But with that being said, Patrick Cantlay, he's only played this at 1 time. Like, in terms of a course history model, I don't think he deserves to be in the 10K range compared to even some other guys in here. Not discounting Cantlay because he's a dog and this course fits the boring golf course model, but it should be Rory, Scotty, Cantlay.
The biggest issue with Patrick Cantlay is that the last 3 tournaments on the weekend, he is losing strokes on approach, which is very unlike Patrick Cantlay. He's still playing very well. Let's be abundantly clear. He's still finishing. Don't quote me on this. I think he's got a couple top 20s in his last 4 or 5 starts. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I know he was winning at one point. I want to say a week or two, not in Mexico, but maybe in, would it have been Riviera probably that he was winning at one point?
It's possible. But with that being said, it's just if you're doing a DFS for the first 2 days, Patrick Cantlay will be your number 1. If you're doing a weekend only, you might want to bypass that.
Yeah, I think you're getting Cantlay at his maximum value here. As funny as it sounds, I think you're getting Rory on probably his middle value here. And then obviously you're getting Scotty being the top player at his max value. So I think that's where my mindset goes.
Don't get me wrong with Rory. The 10,600 is a very fair price because, like you had said 2 seconds ago, we're not seeing peak Rory yet. We haven't seen it. since he came over from the DP World Tour events, I think since it was the BMW, I want to say, don't quote me. No, yeah, Hero, and then he finished top 10 at BMW. We've seen a kind of like a middling, and again, middling is like 24th, but we haven't seen that peak Rory transfer to the PGA Tour. And if there's going to be an event that he's circling on his calendar, trying to get that green jacket, he goes, "This is my 4 rounds of confidence. I dominate here. I'm Rory freaking McIlroy." So for me in this range, he's number 1. It has to be.
I completely agree. And I think that people are right now are really weird about Rory's approach play. People are saying he's got a really bad approach play.
It's the wedges.
It's the short. Yeah, it's the around the green. And then his putter's not the best right now. But he actually gained on approach each of the first 3 rounds at Cognizant Cognizant PGA National.
PGA National.
Thank you. We're gonna refer to it always as PGA National now from here on out. I've determined that because fuck the name Cognizant. It's awful. So
unless you're sponsoring us, and it's the best tournament I've ever seen in my life. turndoggolfpod@gmail.com.
But no, everybody looks at his approach play as if that's what's wrong. No, it's the around the green, it's putting. I'm okay with it then this week. I mean, it's going to be a little fluky, but I'm not worried about it because he's got the distance, he's got the approach play. Rory's also the most statistical, or how do I word this? The best statistical player in the wind on the PGA Tour, which makes sense. He's from Northern Ireland. They play in 40-mile-an-hour winds basically from when they're in Huggies growing up as a kid. So the math checks out. But again, that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and then in reference to just one quick note about Patrick Cantlay, he's only played this event 1 year, but this course does fit his mold. It is a lot of that because everybody calls him a short hitter. He's not a short hitter. He just doesn't swing hard. He rolls the ball so well, and these fairways are going to take off and roll. So he is going to fit the mold. And 10K, again, I think there's guys in 9K that you could probably flip him with, but it's not an unreasonable price. Because if he flips that switch, which Patrick Cantlay can obviously flip that switch, 10K is one of those prices you go, maybe I take that flyer. And if you're doing, if you're with your buddies and you want to try and stock up on some guys in the 9K range, which I know I have a lineup with, Cantlay can be that guy. But for $600, you got to go Rory. That's my theory.
Yeah, I mean, Cantlay can flip the switch. You just got to give him 20 minutes in order to get out of his chair, get up there, grab the walker, eventually get to it, look over the ball.
He's been playing faster this year.
I know. I'm a little impressed. He's getting there. But, I think it's obvious. Rory's 1, Scotty's 2, Cantlay's 3. We'll call it there.
No debate there.
9K range we go. We're starting Victor Hovland at 9,900 all the way down to Justin Thomas at 9,000.
So let me just pause right here. So, quick question.
Quick answer.
Why in the world is Colin Morikawa in this category?
I actually have a lot of interesting. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So I have some notes here. Colin Morikawa is really kind of an enigma. He doesn't really deserve to be here. He has struggled to start 2024, and basically the only way Colin Morikawa succeeds this week is if he finds a fairway on every hole. If he doesn't do that, he doesn't have the club head speed or the power to succeed from 200 plus yards out. I'll say this. In 2020, he finished T9 here. He gained 10 strokes on approach that week, and he still only barely cracked top 10. That was peak Colin Morikawa when he was firing on all cylinders. If he's gaining 10 strokes on approach and can barely crack top 10, there's just no shot that he's going to do any better than 10th place. It just isn't going to happen.
And last year he finished outside the 100th.
Well, exactly. Last year he missed the cut. I think part of that was weather related. But even so, if he's making the cut, I don't see him finishing better than probably 25th, maybe 30th even, which is tough to say out of Colin Morikawa, but he just isn't firing on all cylinders right now. I know he's got a couple top 10s listed on DraftKings, but just avoid him. Go to Homa right above him. Go to Aberg, I think 400 above him, or Xander 700 above him. There's a few other options there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, number one, there's a guy named Ludwig Aberg who might be the new mold of a wave of golfers that we're going to see. that is, I am not going to be, and again, this is not a disrespect when I say this, but I'm not going to be Gordon Sargent, who's going to hit at 340. I'm not going to be a Fred Biondi, who's going to work on my wedges and dial on everything there. I am going to be good at everything in the middle. And he has done above average in basically every category. This guy obviously has not played here because it's kind of his campaign, but my goodness, does he fit the mold here? So he, in my opinion, I thought him and Cantlay should have been flipped, which I know is aggressive because you have a guy like Hovland here or Schauffele, but Aberg just fits the mold. I'm excited to see Spieth this year, which I haven't said that in a long time. Spieth, his last 2 starts here were both 4th place. So I think he has confidence here. I think we have a couple more years of Spieth with that distance, and then he's going to try and go back to the chicken wing, which he should. It's been performing well. And then I do like as my last guy, I'm going Maxwell Homa. Goodness gracious, 4 starts here, 14th, 17th, 10th, and 24. I think he took a nice little break. He's back. He's gelling. He's having fun. And I think this could be a really good course that he kind of overperforms here.
If you look at Max Homa's recent finishes, it might not tell the whole story too.
No,
because of the fluke weeks at Pebble Beach and Waste Management due to the weather, he ended up on the wrong side of those draws.
Probably the worst draw.
Yeah, I think the worst draw on both. So I want to say Pebble Beach, he missed the cut. And then Waste Management, he finished like T66 or so. It wasn't pretty.
I think even worse than that.
Yeah, maybe I'm being generous. But again, both of those were weather dependent. If you take those out, he hasn't finished worse than 15th in any of his other starts. Now you could sit there and be like, Liam, that's only like 4 starts. I know. Unfortunately, there's not like 30 weeks of golf to look back on. But again, every week that hasn't been a major weather issue, Homa's played well on. I'm a big fan of Spieth this week. Again, I think a lot of the reasons you said, 2 T4s here. He's got plenty of distance. His iron plays are solid. He can be streaky with a putter. You could argue that even if you want to get really full of semantics, that he's got dad strength now. So therefore, he's just going to automatically play better.
Which is weird to say a comment about Spieth being streaky with the putter, but it's true.
Yeah, I know. I know that's a little jarring depending on who you are, but it's unfortunately how it goes. I spent like part of the day today trying to think too with Ludwig Aberg. I was trying to think of who I could like compare him to from the past, and I couldn't get a good option. Like I thought about maybe like a VJ Singh. Yeah, there you go. That
was not planned.
No, that was not. But that was exactly where my mind went as well. That's hilarious that we both just pulled out VJ Singh out of nowhere.
Maybe Chris DeMarco a little bit.
All right, well that's a deep cut for any casuals that don't know who Chris DeMarco is.
Shout out Chris DeMarco.
As far as the last guy I'll mention in this range, Xander Schauffele, he has 4 top 10 finishes to start the year. He's also gained on approach in every tournament since the century. It's the like oddly safe-ish kind of play in this range, but like he's safe-ish with upside of winning, which is so weird to say. Like, I don't think you're going to get worse than like a T30 out of Xander, but like, I don't know why he feels like he's almost just getting overlooked. Maybe just because Ludwig and Spieth and Homa are right there behind him.
Yeah. And I made a mistake, and I caught myself when you mentioned Aberg. I think he did play here last year, and he finished like top 25. So I was wrong in my earlier sentiment when I said he's obviously in his campaign, now that I remember. But yeah, Schauffele, I want to say he's only played here once too, and was like a kind of like a middling 35th or 40th, if I remember.
He played here twice. One time he played like, God, I want to say it was like 7 years ago. I don't have the number specifically, and he missed the cut. But again, that was like half a dozen years ago. He might have just turned pro, for all we know. And then, a couple years ago, I think he played 2 years ago, and he finished like 35th. Again, weather, I think, was a bit of a challenge there as well. So I don't take that too much into account.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll talk about, by the way, I'm sorry. Sam Burns has missed 2 cuts here, sandwiched by T9th. He's got good form right now, but the consistency is not there. When you expect Sam Burns to do well, he underperforms. And I think because he's been playing well, there's going to be a bit of I could see him doing well this week, and therefore he would let people down.
Yeah, I was going to say Sam Burns is scary because you go miscut 9, or no, 36, or whatever it was, but
Yeah.
it's scary. Justin Thomas, I think, is one of those prices that it's like, goodness gracious, because again, he's had one bad showing in the last like 3 months of golf, and he missed the cut on the number. So it's not like he's played bad. He's been playing really well. He finished, like goodness, 21st last year at this event, and 9K under Colin Morikawa is mind blowing for a guy that's played this well. So again, I'll just be transparent. He did not make my official DraftKings lineup, but you better believe I'm throwing Justin Thomas in some of these lineups that I'm putting in, because the upside at 9K for JT is tremendous.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. When you look at him missing it at Genesis on the number, he lost on every strokes gained metric. And like every one of them. Approach, off the tee, putting, short game, all of it. He didn't gain a single iota on any of them, and he barely missed the cut on the number. Again, I would consider that more of a fluke than anything else. I would be quite comfortable getting back to Justin Thomas at 9,000. I think the biggest challenge is getting to him when you like all of those other guys above him. I think
stacked category.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. All right. Do we want to rattle off a top three in this range, or what do you think?
Aberg, Homa, Spieth. Boom.
Okay. I'm thinking Schauffele, Homa, Spieth.
Yeah, it's hard for me to fight you on Schauffele because I think I've picked him every single week. He's one of my favorite golfers.
Yeah.
But OG, I know you're listening. I'm sorry about this. I have the feeling about Spieth, and I think if his putter gets hot, I think we're in for a good showing.
That's kind of how I feel not betting Ludwig, or not having Ludwig in my top three this week. Like I can't put him in every week because I feel like I've been so heavily on him in the past that I'm like I just need a week off to make sure I'm not, falling in love too quickly like we did with Cougar Collins. All right. Yeah, exactly. Peace up, Cougar. Hope you're doing well, buddy. 8K range. We're starting off Will Zalatoris at 8,900, all the way down to Russell Henley at 8,000.
Let me just pause and just interject right here. Matt Fitzpatrick,
yes,
is disrespected in this range.
Well, there's a few people in DraftKings that I felt like were disrespected this week, but he's one of them. Yes.
Let me just rattle off his last 5 starts here.
Yes.
14, 9, 10, 9, 2.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that his form isn't perfect right now, but again, he did just play well at PGA National last week, and then again, in my mind, coming off a good performance at PGA National, plus this recent form here, plus the way I know his irons play, plus how I know he plays in the wind and in bad weather conditions, I think he's got to be stamped into your lineup somewhere. He just fits too many of these good metrics to really leave out of my mind. So I like him a lot at 8,600 as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to be, now again, when you see my lineup, and the way I'm talking about Matt Fitzpatrick, you're going to be blown away by my lineup, and I perfectly understand that. With that being said, I would really strongly consider everyone look at Cam Young this week, which I know is like, oh, he had one good week, Jack. Like, let's take a chill pill. That guy, with his distance, and again, I know it comes down to approach play, but if he just has, let's call it, plus a quarter of a shot on the field in terms of approach, he has the driver and he has the putting to be able to at least get top 20.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think Cam Young has an opportunity to fulfill and kind of beat all those expectations this week. But there's some guys in here that I'm fading like the wind. Like Wyndham Clark, good Lord, does he not perform well here, just for example?
Yeah, it's Wyndham Clark's somebody that, again, doesn't perform great here. I think Fitzpatrick, $100 more than him, is 100% the better option to go to. I would argue that Will Zalatoris is potentially back into close form, kind of that we knew Will Zalatoris into. Again, this is barring any new injury insight that comes out as of March 4th. 2024. If he comes out in 2 weeks and is like, actually, I retweaked my back last week, disregard everything I just said. But he did finish T2 at Genesis, which again, I think I had him picked as a winner that week, and for
the first time, I was amazed at his putting stroke. I think I
Yeah.
I think I blew our group chat up, unfortunately. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's no longer this weird figure eight approach to Will Zalatoris' putter, which is great. So he's a viable option. He's still always going to carry a little bit of inherent risk, especially these first few weeks, just because of the past injury. But especially if you're looking at like a winner take all type of prize, or if you're in a single entry and you need that high upside, I think him or Cam Young is probably one of your better options to go to. I'm going to talk about the fact that nobody in their right mind should play Sung Jae Im. So he has lost strokes on approach in each of the last 4 starts, which is why he's basically been unable to make the cut in a majority of his last finishes. I know he plays well here. I don't have his stats in front of me. He's got a couple of top 20s. I don't care about recent form when he has played as absolutely poorly as he has the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean,
so let me just correct what Liam just said, because he just contradicted himself.
Sorry,
what he's saying is he doesn't care about course history here because of his recent form.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where I was getting. But yeah, I don't care how good Sung Jae Im plays here. I can't get to him because of how bad he's been playing recently getting up to this tournament.
Yeah, it is scaring me. And just for everybody that's like, oh, Liam, you're the course history guy. Let me read you his last 5 finishes here. 21-20, 21-3-3. I 100% get your argument. No one is disputing your argument that course history is important. But taking a look at form coming into it, especially when you're ranking guys like this, like he finished 92nd last week, 44th at the Genesis, back-to-back 66th, and an 80th at the Farmers. Like, this guy used to be one of the top 5 priced guys, and come Augusta in a month and a little bit of change, he's got to show something, because that's a course that he dominates. So it's interesting.
I like somebody below him in the 7K range 1,000 times more than him, and we can get into him in a little bit. Is there anybody else you like in this lower 8K range between Hideki, Tom Kim, J-Day, Thagala, or Henley even?
I think
I hate Henley, but
I think that the guy who has the most upside here would be Hideki.
I agree.
I think that when he's on, he's one of the best players in the world. And I know that obviously goes without saying, but when he's on and he has that iron game and he's got his mental game, and obviously he's, between him and Justin Thomas, I think the best fairway wood players of the last decade. I think he's scary and has the ability to go deep. But again, he's been the most injured player I've ever seen in my life outside of Tiger Woods, and it's scary to me. So with a grain of caution and everything else in between, he has the most upside, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hideki's got the most upside. Tom Kim doesn't really fit this course specifically. No. Jason Day has kind of struggled here each of the last few years. I want to say he's got 1 made cut in his last 3 starts here. Thagala is not playing in California or the West Coast, therefore I don't care about him. Sorry, I said it. Everybody else thinks it, but that's my thought. And then again, Russell Henley is fine as far as iron play goes, but the dude catches 1 lick of wind and all of a sudden he becomes the worst golfer in human history. So he's actually rated the worst golfer in this field as far as wind goes. So that is why I'm not high on Russell Henley this week. Into the 7K range we go. We have JT Poston all the way down to Christian Bezuidenhout.
Let me just say, whatever odds come out about players markets and JT Poston, I'm betting the under. This guy sucks here. Let me just read you the stat. He's played 8 rounds here. Guess how many shots he's lost on average?
2? I don't know.
17.25.
Oh, God.
His average finish is 88.7, which is ridiculous here. It is crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy when there's a guy the same price who's now a top 25 guy in the world, who has been playing tremendously over the last like 20 straight weeks, outside of the BMW PGA, correct? Like 18 of the last 20 weeks. The same price. Come on. Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah, Matthew Pavon, I think, could have probably been priced where Wyndham Clark is at 8,500, and I would have been totally cool with it. Just move everyone down a little bit more. Let's just look at Matthew Pavon's form to start the season. A T7, a T39 at the Farmers. That's unfortunate. You know, he could have done a little better on that one. Then a win. hey, he made up for it. A T3 and then a T18. That is absolutely absurd. Let's not forget, by the way, he is a rookie. He is second on overall on tour on strokes gained approach, second on tour in proximity, 15th on tour from strokes gained 200 plus, second in strokes gained putting, and first in strokes gained total. That is an insane start to the year. Again, casual. He's just a rookie, which is insane. So I think Matthew Pavon is one of the worst, most mispriced golfers in this field at 7,900 for sure.
I think there's one guy that's worse, but I'm right there with you.
I agree. I think it's 50-50 between a few of those guys. But yeah, I think Pavon definitely has a chance there. I'm going to talk a little bit about Brian Harman just because he sucks here. He's missed the cut in 6 of his last 10 starts here, including each of his last 3 starts dating back to 2019. The guy does not play good in the wind. I would just avoid him at all costs. If I look and see and he has decent miscut numbers, I might bet him this week because there's a good chance I don't think he makes it. I know there's only 20 guys that would miss the cut. I think Harman has a chance to. I think Poston could too, but I think Harman even more so.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
What do you think about Knapp, by the way? He played well last week, even though it wasn't really built for him. I'm curious.
Yeah, good for him. I know this is crazy to say.
Yep.
Trust me, I know what I'm about to say is dumb. I want to see one more week. I understand it's dumb. I understand it.
I'm in the same boat. I get it. I mean, it's nice, but I see the other guy at 7,600 and Benny On, who's played this event 8 times and only missed the cut this first time out when he played it in 2010 as an amateur. Because again, he didn't go pro until 2011. And he's got a few top 15s in here as well of those eight starts. It just makes sense for me to play the more surefire thing in my head. I mean, Benny On just has more notoriety in my head to pick there instead of Jake Knapp. Again, that's the tough sell for me there. There's a lot of hype on Adam Scott this week. I think he rates out really well statistically. He plays quite well in the wind, so I guess that makes sense. And he's been in decent form as far as the course goes for course history. But I don't know if I'm running out of my shell to go get him at 7,500.
Yeah, I think the only other guy that I'm like, oh, you know what, I kind of like this week, and it's not Nikolai Hilliard for once. It's Keegan Bradley. Oh. Welcome Eric Keegan back to the show. He has always done really well here. And if I pull up his stats, in the last 3 years, he's finished 2 top 10s and an 11th. So he's gained 35.74 strokes gained in the last 32 rounds here. And you're taking a look at that in a field where he just has to get top 50 just to make the cut and ties. I mean, this guy, what's his price? Let me go back. 7,400. When I say 7,500, just make me a cut. 7,400, just beat 20 guys.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm going to mention Eric Keegan. If you don't know that's Keegan Bradley. He's 7,400. He is 4th in strokes gained ball striking when it comes to the last 50 rounds of extreme wind conditions. He's also 9th in total strokes gained. So Eric Keegan's another great guy when it comes to these windy, crazy conditions. He plays solid here. He hasn't really had any top 15s here, but he also has a lot of made cuts here, so he's kind of that safety play type, maybe Xander Schauffele light at this course, specifically based on all the data this week. Did I never even mention is Rosie in the 8K range, and did I just miss him entirely?
He's 6K.
He's 6K. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. All right. Tom Hoagie plays great in windy conditions. Just look at Pebble Beach. He's also made the cut here 3 of 5 times, and in those 3 made cuts, he's got 3 top 30 finishes. So he could be another interesting option. I think that's all I got for this range.
Oh my God, I just found the greatest bet of all time, and I just put it in the doc. And I can't believe what I'm.
Let's go 6K range. We'll get to bets here. Emiliano Grillo, 6,900, all the way down to who is the last guy? Because I know you probably know him better than I do. David Ford, right?
Oh, David Ford. Well, let me tell you right away. David Ford, UNC stud, let me just say, number 3 amateur golfer in the world. Now, take that with a grain of salt, because I know live amateurs are now classified as professionals, even though they're amateurs. So take that with a grain of salt. He's dominated. So in 2024, his worst finish has been 16th. And the last 10 weeks of golf, he's had 1 missed cut. And guess what? That was at the RSM Classic, where he was in one of those groups that got shafted by the wind. He's been on multiple Walker Cups, multiple USAM championships, multiple PGA Tour events, and he has qualified in every single D1 national championship. So if you can't kind of get the train I'm going on with those numbers, get ready for my palmy pause. But on the other hand, if you play Justin Rose this week, you might as well turn off golf for the rest of your life. Let me just put it like that. Goodness gracious, this guy.
Yeah, here's some stats on Justin Rose. He may feel like a bit of a sneaky play this week, but he's actually missed the cut here in each of his last 4 starts after finishing 3rd here in 2018. His golf game has been inconsistent outside of a decent T11 at the Farmers. His approach play has also been off as well, as he ranks 164th on tour so far this year in strokes gained approach. So that's usually his bread and butter. In this instance, this is not his cup of tea. Are we going to talk about Minwoo Lee being priced at 6,600?
That was what my next guy was going to be, because if you take a look at FanDuel, for example, on FanDuel, Minwoo Lee is like the 10th priced guy at 10,000. Misprice alert.
Yeah, he's going to be 50% owned probably in this 6K range. It might get wild how many people take Minwoo Lee.
If you're in some of these casual lineups, I'll be honest, I've seen a bunch of them where you get these random pools where you're playing against like people that have never watched golf before but had a free $10 bet. They may not even get down to this category. So you're probably either going to see 50% ownership or like 12% ownership, and there's no middle.
I'll say this. He was ranked 4th in the field in approach at PGA National. He also made 4 eagles during the tournament, which is just kind of nice as far as DFS lineups go. He finished tied 2nd again, so his form is decent, and he's kind of rounded the edge, because I know he had a bit of a rough start. And I think 6,600, he's 100% the option to go to. Now, if you want to be a little contrarian, go get the other guy at 6,600 and Eric Van Rooyen. He found his irons. He's found his putter. He's gained on approach in each of his last 5 starts. And if you look at his finishes here, he's just an entirely different golfer than the EVR we saw all of 2023. He's got a T8 and a T2 in his last 2 starts. And he's actually got better course history than Minwoo Lee. So I think part of the reason Minwoo Lee is also priced down here is he's played this event twice and he's got 2 missed cuts. Now, he's not the same golfer than when he played this twice and he missed a cut. Let me be clear. But I would go with one of those guys at 6,600 if you have the opportunity to. Last guy I'll mention, 6,200. Where's he at? 6,200 is Adam Schenk. He's an interesting play this week. He's made the cut here in all 3 of his starts and has never finished worse than 41st. He's a high floor, low ceiling type of play. That's if you're really running short on money. You know, you took too many Scotties, you took too many Rorys, you took too many Xanders, you took too many Ludwigs, and you need somebody down here at 6,200. He's down here with some really interesting characters. Now you could go David Ford. But again, Adam Schenk just has that little bit more professional experience. He also does play quite well in the wind and has solid approach play. Cool. All right, let's start with DraftKings lineups. What are you looking at this week?
Yeah, Rory McIlroy, 10,600. I had to get him in there. I mean, he's awesome. Ludwig Aberg, 9,500. Maxwell Homa, 9,200. Matthew Pavon, 7,900. Minwoo Lee, 6,600. And my man, David Ford, 6,000. All he's got to do, listen, here's my rationale. Don't get me wrong. Stupid play, dumb play, stupid play, dumb play.
Yep.
If he has 1 good round and 1 average round, 50 in ties could be 59. So I'm theoretically thinking if he can just beat 11 guys that have a bad Friday or a bad Thursday, there's a chance I get 4 rounds out of a 6K guy.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I spent a ton of time looking at David Ford for FanDuel. I am not a fan of my FanDuel lineup. I've been adjusting it more or less for the last few hours. And I really contemplated going down to David Ford at 6,000 to potentially just boost up the other 5 guys on that. So you did it in DraftKings here specifically. But I don't blame you, especially again, I knew with Rory and Ludwig and Homa, you were gonna have to get cheap. So I see kind of why you did it that way.
Well, here's how I actually structured my lineup. I went down and I was like, let me just take a look at the guys. And I saw Minwoo Lee at 6,600. I clicked him. I'm like,
Yep.
All right, my average cost is like 10,400 now. Let me just start poking around.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to do it for sure. So let's start on my DraftKings lineup. I've got Xander Schauffele at 9,800. Second, give me Jordan Spieth at 9,400. Third, I'm taking Matt Fitzpatrick at 8,600. Fourth, give me Matthew Pavon at 7,900. Fifth, give me Benny On at 7,600. And then again, you could either go, oh my gosh, Minwoo Lee at 6,600. I went with Eric Van Rooyen at 6,600. I understand Minwoo is going to be the option a lot of people go to. Could be a bit of a trap. That's all I'm going to say. We did it last week with Eric Cole. I don't know if I want to go back to the well again. It's a little bit of a gun shy. Is that the way they describe it?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm a little gun shy about getting to it. So
I like it. My FanDuel is very similar, so everybody get in. Rory McIlroy 12,100, Ludwig Aberg 11,300, Maxwell Homa 10,600, Keegan Bradley 9,500, Corey Connors 9,500, David Ford 7,000.
There you go. All right, I like that lineup. I'm going to ask you this. It's going to determine my FanDuel lineup. Do I go with a Justin Thomas and David Ford mix, or do I go with a Benny?
Oh, you can't take my Justin or David Ford pick.
Well, again, I was already looking at him on DraftKings. I didn't mess around or on FanDuel. I didn't mess around with him on DraftKings. But do I go Justin Thomas and David Ford, or do I go Benny On and Adam Schenk?
Well, you are high on Benny On, and I think Adam Schenk is definitely the safer play.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas is the one guy that has the most upside.
I agree.
But compared to your top 3, you do have 2 rounders in Benny and Schenk.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll stick with what I got as far as what I have on the document.
Anybody that knows, if you play fantasy football, this is called a stinker tinker.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of tinkering. But again, I was tinkering on this before, and I was just contemplating on potentially going down to getting off of Benny in order to get up to JT. But no, I'm going to start Rory McIlroy, 12,100. Then give me Jordan Spieth at 11,100. Then I'm going Max Homa, 10,600. Give me Benny On at 9,400. Matthew Pavon at 8,900. And then Adam Schenk at 7,900. We'll see.
John, let me just level set with the group here. I will make money this week on golf betting.
Well, we know you're going to make money between 2 bets. That's for sure.
Yes. So let me just preface right now. These odds, I have never, my notes started as this. And I wrote it down. My odds have changed. My bets have changed. I've cashed out like 3 bets already. So Rory McIlroy, 13th or better at -120. He started the day at 9. I think at one point his top 10 was in plus numbers. And
that's where I got it.
I can't remember off. Yeah, plus numbers at top 10. So 13th or better at -120. This guy's done it. He's done it a number of times. I love it. Cam Young, 24th or better at -120. Again, just above average, quarter of a shot strokes gained on the irons, and we're golden on that number. Matthew Pavon, top 30, -120. He's like, oh, you dick. No.
What do you mean?
Take that out.
I literally talked about it as well.
Take it out. Otherwise, that will hit, and I'm blaming you. You put money on that on the side. We'll get to that. I saw what you did. Matthew Bavon, minus 120, top 30. He's like a top 30 player in the world. All you got to do is play his OWGR. We're chilling. Ludwig Aberg, top 20, minus 120. There's a chance. He started off at average placement of about 18, and now he's at 19th or worse or better on some boxes, so he may change. Max Homa, top 20, minus 105. My favorite bet now that I caught it in the middle of recording, JT Poston, 27th or worse at minus 120. Now, to put that in perspective, I don't know if he's made the cut here, maybe one time. So, goodness gracious, is that majestic? And that's what I was calling Liam about, because he saw it and he tried to follow me. And when we squad ride, we lose. So go in and bet money on that on your own. But here's the bet that's going to make you guys some money. So if you're watching, listening, strap in. Top Englishman. There's 3 guys in the field. Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Justin Rose. Justin Rose may have some of the worst stretch of golf here in the last 5 years. Missed cut, withdraw, missed cut, and barely making the cut at 63rd. Barely. I think he was like the bottom 2 guys. So Tommy Fleetwood is plus 140 over Matt Fitzpatrick and Justin Rose, and Matt Fitzpatrick, top Englishman, or same thing, at plus 150 over Fleetwood and Rose. So if any of Tommy Fleetwood or Matt Fitzpatrick finishes the top Englishman over Rose, I make at least 0.4 units.
There you go. That's the way to do it. Well, you missed out. I don't know where your sportsbooks had it, but now JT Poston is 30th or worse, by the way.
Holy crap. That's good for me. But
well, yeah, that's true. So now he is a little worse. I still like him on that number.
Fluctuated 3 points in the last 5 minutes. Good Lord.
Yeah, you were not alone there. As far as some of my bets, I like the JT Poston.
Oh my God, he's at 31 now.
Yeah, he keeps moving. It gets a little crazy. I actually liked. I thought about betting Sung J M at 30th or worse, but again, we'll ignore him. For my bets, I'm starting Matthew Pavon top 30 at minus 125. Then I'm going Benny on top 30 at minus 130. I'm going Jordan Spieth over Sam Burns at minus 110. I'm doing Patrick Cantlay over Colin Morikawa at minus 120.
I like that one.
I actually feel really nice about that bet. I was so shocked when I saw those two in matchups. Give me Matthew Fitzpatrick top 20 at plus 110. And I took Rory top 10 at plus 100. So again, I didn't get him at crazy positive odds, but I got plus money for a guy that basically always finishes top 10 here. So I'm pretty happy on that number.
I like it. I really like that. Patrick Cantlay bet I really like. It's more about if Patrick Cantlay can have an average weekend and if Colin Morikawa can have an average Thursday, Friday.
If I lose that bet, then Colin Morikawa will have gained at least 8 strokes on the approach for the week. That's basically the only way to do it. If Colin Morikawa all of a sudden shoots out of his ass on approach play, then that bet loses. Otherwise, you're in good shape. All right, we going winners or wild card picks?
I kind of like my wild card if you want to start there.
Ooh, all right. I'm intrigued.
Rory McIlroy to be in the final pairing on Sunday at plus 650. Now, I'm hoping it's threesomes. Let me tell you that, because it didn't specify. So I'm hoping there's some weather delay that they need to cram in some final pairings. Plus 650 for Rory to be in the final group on Sunday.
There you go.
He does tremendously well through Saturday here and always plays well on Sunday. And I think that if Rory can go out and capitalize on some of the wins that he had from Sunday and really put 3 stretches of rounds in there, I think he has honestly a really good shot to be there Sunday, especially in a closed field like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high on Rory this week. That's for sure. So I'm a fan. I like that play. I went a little different route. Again, everybody else is high on Adam Scott. I don't want to be that involved in the Adam Scott train, but I'll dip a toe in. So my wild card pick is Adam Scott over Jason Day and Cam Davis. Again, I'm looking at the upside of Adam Scott versus the current status of Jason Day and Cam Davis. They just both don't look like they're playing all that great. So I'll take his odds at plus 230, and that will be my wild card pick.
Cam Davis is horrific here, never made a cut, and has lost on average of 7.88 strokes here. So
yeah, so I'm
it's
basically taking
basically
a
Adam
head-to-head.
Scott versus Jason Day at plus 230.
Yeah, which is pretty good odds to get Adam Scott at for that, all things considered. I think they're only
Yeah.
$600 off in terms of DraftKings prices. So
In terms of value, yeah.
yeah, it works out. All right, to the winners we go. We're actually going to do winners for both API, the Arnold Palmer, and then we will include some winners from Puerto Rico. Let's start off with the winners at Arnold Palmer. What are you looking at, Jack?
Number one, Rory.
Yep. Yeah.
I love Rory. I'll probably get him at the Masters again to finish my 3-ball. Roars, I mean, this is going to be, I think he's locked in for this week. I think he's circled it on the calendar. 4 rounds of confident boost. And then I got Cam Young. Like I said, for the 6th time, if he just has an above average iron play and approach way week, we are probably going to see him on the leaderboard Sunday. Because driver's not a problem. Putter's not a problem. And scrambling's not a problem for Cam Young. But again, if he's above average, those opportunities are minimized. So I think there's a better chance than not we see Cam Young on the leaderboard come Sunday.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought about putting Cam Young as a winner's pick this week. And then I saw the doc. Jack and I both have access to it, and I saw he already had Cam Young as a winner, and I shed a quick tear and moved on to the next one. So I'll have to include Cam Young in another week where he'll be in a good spot for it. My winners this week, I'm going a little off the beaten path. Not a lot of top of the market winners so far to start the year. So I went with 2 guys that I think have winning upside but are a little lower on the board. I went with Matthew Pavon as my first winner's pick. And then my second winner's pick is Keegan Bradley. And again,
Eric Keegan.
Little Eric Keegan. And again, I'm hoping for some just disastrous weather this week. And then Keegan Bradley.
Me too for Rory.
And then Keegan Bradley is like turns into Eric Keegan, and he gets into his alternate form like a transformer and just starts playing out of his mind.
Boston.
Yeah, just like in Boston, exactly. All right, and then we'll get into it real quick here right at the end. If you're a golf sicko like Jack and I, you might look at the Puerto Rico Open, and you might want some stats on the Puerto Rico Open. There's not any strokes gained metrics on this course. It is a weird overall tournament. I listed some of the names off in my head before getting into the podcast this evening, and God, is it ugly after the first dozen names.
Let me just read you some of the most recent winners. Let me ready. Yeah. Nico Echevarria, which his nickname is Nacho.
Yep.
Ryan Brem.
Yep.
Brandon Grace. Victor Hovland. Martin Trainer. D.A. Points, who D.A. Points is most famous in the golf community for being disqualified at Pebble Beach.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Victor Hovland, I think, won this as like a 19-year-old, by the way, I want to say, too. He won it like freshman year of college. He just decided he'd show up, and he kicked the crap out of a bunch of professionals. So that was really fun. Puerto Rico is a 7,500-yard golf course. It's tons of length off the tee. There's going to be a bit of iron play. It's a coastal kind of resort type course. There's a few interesting things to look at. Because of the distance, Chris Gotterup is going to be a bit of an interesting play this week, just because he actually leads the PGA Tour in driving distance. And then, do you want to get into winners picks for you, Jack?
Yeah. First and foremost, I got Victor Perez, who finished 16th last week, I want to say.
Yep. Good
showing, had a struggling back nine, but was in there. He's been capitalizing and playing pretty well. And then Satoshi Kodaira, former number 1 amateur in the world. I think at a random event like this, he's kind of slipped off pretty good. I think this may be a good week for him to kind of put out and put 4 rounds together. And he has the ability, he hasn't shown it, but he has the ability to score deep. Yeah. 2 guys I like. I mean, obviously you can go with the Daniel Berger, Ryo Hisasune route. Aaron Wise, good to see him back in the PGA Tour. Yep. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jack listed a few of the big names. I think they are the names that 80 or so % of people are going to go to. For me, I'm looking at Sam Stevens. It's a weak field and a long course, which he generally excels in. He did miss the cut in Mexico, which I think kind of scared a lot of people away. But again, this is the style of course he really succeeds in. So he's my first winner's pick, or my one and done. My other one's going to be Chan Kim. He's more recent form, but
Dominant.
both have success on longer courses, and I think are decent choices as far as things go compared to a list of some pretty bad names once it gets towards the bottom. I think there's some interesting ones. I wanted Jack and I commented. I think that Rory Sabatini and KJ Choi are like one of the first alternates into this field. So it gets quite interesting quite quick. But that is all for the podcast.
Just showing off my API polo once more.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, next week we do go to the Players, which is going to be an extremely fun tournament.
I can't wait for Tiger's announcement that he's playing. Cannot wait.
But again, the Players is arguably the fifth major. Everybody's going to show up that is on PGA Tour and not on Live, which is unfortunate that we don't get everybody there. But I think next week is going to be a really, really good week of betting. This week might be a little funky just because of the 70-person field. But regardless, we're going to go out there and we're going to win a little bit of money this week. So everybody enjoy yourselves. And let's do it. Let's win some money this week.
Let's go do it this week.
Doses.
Doses.